Well, my dear Albert, said Franz, turning towards his friend, what do you think of citizen Luigi Vampa? I say he is a myth, replied Albert, and never had an existence. And what may a myth be? Inquired Pastrini. The explanation would be too long, my dear landlord, replied Franz. And you say that Signor Vampa exercises his profession at this moment in the environs of Rome, and with a boldness of which no bandit before him ever gave an example. Then the police have vainly tried to lay hands on him. Why, you see, he has a good understanding with the shepherds in the plains, the fishermen of the Tiber, and the smugglers of the coast. They seek for him in the mountains, and he is on the waters. They follow him on the waters, and he is on the open sea. Then they pursue him, and he has suddenly taken refuge in the islands, at Giglio, Ganucci, or Monte Cristo. And when they hunt for him there, he reappears suddenly at Albano, Trivoli, or La Riccia. And how does he behave towards travelers? Alas, his plan is very simple. It depends on the distance he may be from the city, whether he gives 8 hours, 12 hours, or a day wherein to pay their ransom. And when that time has elapsed, he allows another hour's grace. At the 16th minute of this hour, if the money is not forthcoming, he blows out the prisoner's brains with a pistol shot, or plants his dagger in his heart, and that settles the account. Well, Albert, inquired Franz of his companion, are you still disposed to go to the Colosseum by the outer wall? Quite so, said Albert, if the way be picturesque. The clock struck 9 as the door opened, and a coachman appeared. Excellencies, said he, the coach is ready. Well then, said Franz, let us to the Colosseum, by the Porta del Popolo, or by the streets, your excellencies. By the streets, morbleu, by the streets, cried Franz. Ah, my dear fellow, said Albert, rising, and lighting his third cigar. Really, I thought you had more courage. So saying, the two young men went down the staircase and got into the carriage. Okay, well, right? Yes. What was this chapter about? What was the purpose of this chapter? Clearly, we are going to meet Luigi Vampa. Question, though, there's a line here when Pastrini is answering the question of why the police can't capture this dude. Says that they seek for him in the mountains, and then he's on the waters. But then they go into the waters, and he's on the open sea. And then when they pursue him on the open sea, suddenly he's in the islands. And one of the islands he mentions is Monte Cristo. So is Vampa one of... Oh my god, folks, my brain just broke open for a second. There's all of the different crews. Okay, hold on. Remember back in the day, before Dante found the treasure, he is escaped from Chateau d'If, saved by the La Jeune Amélie and their crew. God, I forgot the name of the captain there, but there was Jacopo. I remember him. But they go into that tavern where that captain of the La Jeune Amélie is meeting with another smuggler, and they decide on Monte Cristo as the meeting point. And Dante had a little aside thought, thinking, my goodness, look at all of these men who could be pulled together under the direction of a single figurehead, if need be. So if we got Jacopo as one crew, let's say, I know he wasn't the captain, but that's the only name I can remember from that crew. And then you have Gaetano. I didn't get the sense from chapters 31 and 32 that Gaetano was part of Dante's crew, just aware of Dante's crew. Could Vampa be yet another? Like, okay, I guess my question is Dante assembling an army of smugglers and bandits? Are we just getting a taste of how much... Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop myself there. I realize I'm starting to speculate, but you can see why I'm starting to try to put puzzle pieces together, because Dumas is just like teasing us with these little tidbits of things. Vampa goes to Monte Cristo. Vampa had a slight run-in with Sinbad the Sailor, and so did Franz. And Franz went to Monte Cristo, and your mind wants to put all of these things together. I think this is the thing. Like, I have no problem with mystery stories. I love them, but it's not a genre that I have gravitated toward or have a lot of experience with. However, my understanding with mystery stories, you hear anecdotes from mystery writers in that you want to write a story in which the reader feels smart for trying to stay a step ahead of the story, but then you don't want to disappoint them by giving them exactly what they thought they were heading toward. So you have to stay 2 steps ahead of the reader, who's 1 step ahead of where they think you are. Does that make any sense? My point being that as readers, we want to do that. Our brains are constantly going, where is this story going? Where are we going to head next? Oh, I bet it's here. And those expectations are things that aren't exclusive to mystery stories. They're exclusive to, I guess, any genre story where you have your expectation, and that's how it can be subverted to surprise you. And that's when you can have things that are shocking, things that are thrilling, things that are romantic. You expect it to go a certain direction, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But even if it does go where you were expecting, it doesn't get there the way you thought it would. And that's the lesson I'm constantly trying to teach myself here, which is like, you can speculate all day long, Landon, but at the end of the day, you have no idea how we're going to get to the place we're going to get to, even if you can predict where it is we're going to end up. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. What a brain twister to end this chapter on. What do we need to wrap up here? What do we learn this chapter? Let's go through that. We got the backstory of Luigi Vampa, a self-taught shepherd who has no scruples to pull himself up to where he needs to be, even if it means murdering someone and taking what he wants from them, or setting fire to an estate just to steal a fancy dress for your betrothed. He's in love with and wants to marry Teresa, who seems to be distracted by shiny things, and I don't mean that in an intention way. I mean that in a literal, oh, look, there's a shiny gem. I want that. Please give that to me. Please take that for me. Give, gimme. And they have found their way circuitously to becoming the captain of these Roman bandits. Okay, great. And at the end here, this has all been one story told by Pastrini to ward off Franz and Albert of seeing the Colosseum and some of Rome by carriage, especially after dark, on the pathway that they want to, because they are certainly going to run into this Luigi Vampa. They don't care. At the end of this, they're like, well, this sounds exciting. Do you still want to do it? Well, I guess if it's going to be pretty, we got to do it. So Albert's like, hitch up the carriage and let's head out. And they do. So despite this long-ass story that Pastrini has told us and told Franz and Albert, they still move forward with their plan. Thus, we have to encounter Vampa by way of Franz and Albert. There's no other reason we would have gone through all of this. I don't think. I hope not. So that's exciting. Will they be harmed by Vampa? Will they be endeared by him? What kind of man is Vampa? We've only had the view of Vampa through Pastrini's lens. Maybe he's very different. How does Dante fit into all this? So many questions that we can still answer by continuing to read the story, and we don't miss a day here. Tomorrow we jump directly into chapter 34. But as of today, you can get the story-only audio for chapter 33 over at patreon.com/gruntworkpod. I mentioned this yesterday. We have set a goal as a podcast network to just pay for itself. Again, we aren't looking to make money on this. Everything that we do to keep these shows on the air, to grow the network, all comes out of our pockets. And we don't mind doing that. We love doing that. We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't possible to do it. But it is expensive, and I don't know how long we can do it forever. So your contributions are a way to make sure that this show can stay on the air for the 4 years that we have set out to do it, to stay on the air after we've completed the show, because that still requires podcast hosting, still requires a website, domain, all that stuff that is an annual expense. And your contributions go directly right into the network to make sure that we can bring you this show, we can bring you other shows like Odyssey, like Movie Memory Machine, and others that we are currently developing, both with ourselves and with outside people, to make sure that they remain artist-owned, ad-free, and developed and shaped the way that you, the listener, wants. So if you can contribute as little as $1 a month over at patreon.com/gruntworkpod, or as much as you would like, $1 is just the doorway. You can pay as much as you want per month to really help us reach that net zero goal that we have set out. And if you can't contribute, that's totally cool. There's actually some stuff you can go find over at patreon.com/gruntworkpod for free. Updates on this show, on the network. You can find all kinds of stuff and ways to communicate with us by signing up for free over at patreon.com/gruntworkpod. If you can't do that, leaving a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leaving a short review, 1 or 2 words is fine, sufficient. In fact, fine, sufficient can be your review for this show if you'd like, as long as you give it a 5-star. Because when you leave a comment, when you leave a review, it shows the platforms, the algorithms, that the show has value, and that's how it enters into the recommendations for other people. If you ever wonder how that For You stuff shows up on your social media feeds, it's because other people like you have engaged with it, and thus it is recommending it to other people who might like it. And speaking of people who might like it, if you know someone specifically who might, you can always send them the podcast feed, you can send them the YouTube page, tell them that they might enjoy this show, because that's going to cut through all the white noise when it comes to someone trying to find a new podcast to listen to. Having someone just tell you, hey, you might like this, is much more likely to get them to press play, and then it's my job to keep them here. So I hope I've kept you here. I deeply appreciate every single listener. I know that in this long, long chapter, we've had some new contributors to our Patreon, and because of the asynchronous way that I'm recording these to releasing these, you're probably hearing today's episode like 3 weeks after I record it. So I can't thank you in the moment in the way that I would like to, but each and every one of you contributing, I see it, I appreciate it, and if there's a way, if there's something that you would like for that instant gratification to connect with me in some way, please let me know. I'm open to absolutely anything. I want to hear from you, and you can do that over at our Discord or at our Patreon. You can find links to all of those things in the show notes for today's episode, in the show notes for every episode. With that, boy oh boy, I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Chapter 33 is complete, but I got an announcement for you folks. Chapter 34, the exact same amount of episodes as chapter 33. We're in a stretch of the book where there's just some long chapters. So let's do it. Chapter 34, starting a whole new month right here tomorrow. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.